Greetings, humans.
Oh shoot, we're live again. Another Thursday night on planet Earth. What's up, Mike?
What's up, Dave? It's Thursday, March the 13th, 2025. Time for another live stream on the Multiverse.
You got it. I just wanted to shout out if there's any new people to the show. Tell us where you're at in the chat. Thank you so much for joining. For those watching on Facebook, Instagram, X, Rumble, YouTube, thanks a lot for joining the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. We really like those subscriptions on YouTube. Those make a big deal. Those are a big deal to us. So
And join us
yeah.
in the chat. Send us a message. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what you think's interesting about the show. We like all that too.
We do. We love hearing where everyone's from too. Just kind of we want to create a global community here in the multiverse and maybe an interdimensional community at some point.
Intergalactic, interdimensional. That's why it's a multiverse, folks.
Exactly. We got about 12 people, so let's take a look at the chat real quick. There's my mom. Yay! How's it going, Mom? Good to see you. Anybody else? Who are you? Where are you from? Give us a shout out. Where are you living in the multiverse? So the first thing I wanted to mention was we got a guest tonight, huh, Mike?
That's right. Yep.
His name is Mr. Chris Finefrock. He's the director of Lost America, which we had the star of Lost America. Yeah, Rick Osman on the show. What did you think of Rick Osman, Mike?
That was a great episode. If y'all haven't seen it, go back about a month or two and watch our episode with Rick Osman. We talked a lot about out-of-place artifacts in the Americas, history of the Americas, and we're excited to talk more about that with Chris tonight.
Yeah, and Chris, he says he planned a fun, informative presentation for us about, I think it's going to be somewhere along the lines of ancient artifacts, out-of-place artifacts probably found in the Americas. We're pretty excited about that.
Out-of-place artifacts are not out of place on Mike and Dave's show. Don't forget about that, folks.
That's true. That's true. I wanted to take a moment to share a new way to support the channel and support authors that come on the show.
Oh, yeah.
We got a lot of authors. I think we've had a good 7 authors on the show. And so we came up with a way to support them and to support the channel by joining Amazon's affiliate program.
Yep.
So, Brittany, if you could throw that in the chat for Ricardo's book, The Resident Earth. Ricardo is a big fan of the show as well as a friend of the show, and he's going to be our first book of the month. His book, Resident Earth, a little excerpt from it, from the whispers of Malta's hypogeum to the harmonious alignment of Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Resident Earth reveals a legacy of advanced knowledge and transcends the divide between science and spirituality. He was on the show last week talking about it as well, Mike.
Yeah.
And you can support us both in Canada and the US by clicking these links. There's Rebirth of the Word in the chat. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining as usual. So here's the links up on the screen there. You can also find them in the chat. You can also find them on our X profile. Ricardo's book of the month is set for that. And actually, Rebirth is the next book of the month, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
So we'll stay tuned for Rebirth promo and his book of the month.
We're really excited to be meeting authors because Dave and I like reading books about all this stuff, and we want to share that with y'all. So we're gonna have a revolving series of featured books, and it's something we're super excited about. So.
Yes, we are. And I don't know what Rebirth's talking about, but he said we're all about to be on the news.
Yeah, okay. I like watching my local news channel. I do.
We're going to be on the news tonight, Rebirth, or what are we talking about?
Who knows, man? Who knows?
He said he's got something. You never know with Tyrone or Rebirth of the Word what he's got in store for us. But we're hooking up with him next week for a little adventure. So we'll
spring break road trip. That's right.
Yep. And so we'll keep you guys posted on that. You may see some flash lives pop up where we pop up live and from interesting locations. So stay tuned for that.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for that. We're excited to share that with you. And a quick hit on space news tonight. If anyone's planning on staying up late tonight, There's a big lunar eclipse. Here's NASA.gov, March 2025, total lunar eclipse. This, of course, happens when the moon falls in the shadow of the Earth, between the sun. And it's also called a blood moon because the moon turns red when it's in that umbra in the periphery of the light. And scrolling down a little bit, we're going to be visible for pretty much the entire North American continent and a lot of the South American continent. However, you might have to stay up late.
Hopefully it's not cloudy.
And yeah, that being said, here it's supposed to rain later at some point this evening, so that I think that lowers my odds of looking for it. Here's space.com as a convenient list by time zone. So Eastern time for me and Dave, basically 2:30 to 3 this morning. Between the chance of rain and that being at that time, I don't know if I'm going to tune in. But Pacific time, I don't know if it's clear out there on Pacific and you're staying up around midnight. There you have it. I don't know.
Well, our guest, Chris Finefrock's on Pacific time. Maybe he's staying up for it. Who knows? Did you want me to show that quick video of it?
Yeah, show the video about the eclipse.
Okay, we looks like we have a new person in the chat there.
Tough Shake, welcome to the show.
Yeah,
thanks for commenting.
Yeah, where are you from, Tough Shake? Where are you from? And let's go ahead and show a quick. Am I sharing?
Yes, we got video.
Okay, cool. This is just a 1-minute video of this guy explaining exactly what's happening to the moon tonight.
The great thing about a lunar eclipse is that you don't need special equipment and you don't need to be in a particular location. Everybody in the United States is going to be able to see this. They just need to go outside and locate the moon. So a total lunar eclipse happens when the sun, the earth, and the moon are aligned. The moon goes around the earth once a month, but we don't get an eclipse every month because the moon's orbit is a little bit tilted. We get that alignment about every 6 months, and so the Earth's shadow stretches across 240,000 miles and lands on the moon. Eclipses don't happen every month because the moon's orbit is tilted by about 5 degrees, and so some months during the full moon it's going to pass a little bit above the Earth's shadow, and some months it's going to pass a little bit below. About once every 6 months it actually passes through the Earth's shadow. Now, it doesn't hit the middle of that shadow every time, so some lunar eclipses are just partial. But every year or year and a half, we get a total lunar eclipse where the moon passes through the center of the Earth's shadow, and every part of the moon is blocked from the sun. The best thing about a lunar eclipse is that it's beautiful. So the moon during totality will turn shades of orange and red and brown. It's being hit by all of the sunrises and sunsets projected from the Earth. The great thing...
Oops. So, yeah, cool. Shout out to NASA Goddard for that little video. And also shout out to Rick Osmond's wife. Rick Osmond, star of Lost America. Watching from Indiana. Very cool. Yeah, I wanted to toss this up quick before you keep going, Mike. Apparently, Ricardo does not change his clock. Mike doesn't either, but we have to change it on the computer for everyone else, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm a part of society or something. I mean, my class, I don't know why my classes changed time this week, so I just started showing up at a different time. I know what time it is. So does Ricardo. Daylight savings time, folks. Let's get over it.
It's a scam. All right.
It's
a psyop.
And shout out to my dad for sending me the link on the lunar eclipse. He sent me that yesterday, and I read up on that. So thanks for watching the show, Dad. Thanks for being tuned in.
Cool.
2025 is special because, like we said, North America, big lunar eclipse tonight. Later this summer, in September, Asia will have a total lunar eclipse. So interesting here. Sometimes there's only one total lunar eclipse in a year. Rolling on into the next segment. We talked about how I'm going back to school this year, taking classes about Earth and space sciences, and I had a midterm exam about paleoclimatology the other week, and we talked about these Milankovitch cycles. Milutin Milankovitch was an astronomer, mathematician, and physicist from Serbia who in the 1930s, basically he observed that these these periodic changes in the Earth's orbit, whether it's the eccentricity of the orbit, like the oval shape of the orbit, or the obliquity, the tilt of the Earth, or the aim of the tilt, the precession, all of these things like match up closely with climate records in the deep past. So this graph right here shows the last million years of climate data. Sorry, that's kind of small. Basically, when you separate the sine waves for the precession of the equinoxes, for the obliquity, the change in the tilt, and then for the change in the eccentricity or the oval shape, it lines up with all the ice ages for the last million years.
Huh.
Now, correlation doesn't necessarily guarantee causation, right? Just because we know that two things are connected, and we can know for a fact that they're connected somehow, but it doesn't mean we understand how they're connected. And this was established, like I said, in the 1930s. Well, hot off the press from a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Stephen Barker from University of Cardiff, I believe, publishing distinct roles for the three phases, precession, obliquity, and eccentricity in the last 100,000 years worth of glacial cycles. And once again, we're going to turn it over to our good friend Anton Petrov. He's got a tremendous YouTube channel where he unpacks all these scientific articles, and we're going to listen to him explain this stuff better than I ever could for about 2 minutes.
How does it connect to the Milankovitch cycles, and basically what exactly do they do? And so the point of this recent study was essentially to try to figure out which of these properties, eccentricity, precession, or obliquity, was the one most likely responsible for guiding the cycles, or discovering the specific roles for each of these properties. And in order to study this, here scientists analyzed approximately 900,000 years of the glaciation record, mostly focusing on independent records using oxygen isotopes collected by various teams from various ice cores. Now, in a lot of previous studies, there was actually a lot of difficulty in discovering exactly which cycle seems to do what, mostly because some of them seem to actually match. For example, cycle of precession, which can vary between 19 to 26,000 years, but is often approximately 21,000 years, seems to match with the second harmonic of obliquity cycle. Or in other words, 41,000 divided by 2 is approximately 20,500, which is extremely close to the cycle of precession, which means that it's hard to determine which of these cycles seems to be more important. Likewise, there's also something known as the 100,000 year problem. Essentially here, ice ages very often end at a specific interval that matches eccentricity cycles, but for reasons that are not entirely understood. In this case, eccentricity seems to change every 100,000 years, and this is when the Earth's orbit goes from being more circular to slightly more elongated. And so if we actually combine all of these cycles, we get a wave that kind of looks like this. And here, trying to compare this to glaciation periods can be very challenging. And so even today, nobody actually knows which of the cycles seems to produce the most effect. But in this new study, scientists potentially discovered the pattern that explains everything. And so here, by studying oxygen isotopes, they discovered that there was always a peak that seemed to match with very specific cycles, with transitions in glaciation periods directly aligning with certain periods in precession and obliquity. And the results here suggest that it's the precession that seems to usually trigger deglaciation. Or in other words, the wobble of the planet plays the biggest role in causing the ice ages to finally end. And so the data from the study suggests that ice ages seem to come to an end when the cycle of precession reaches its minimum. But usually during this time, the obliquity, or the tilt of the planet, starts to rise as well. Basically here, the tilt goes from approximately 22 degrees up to about 24 degrees. But
all right, gonna go ahead and pause it there because I could dig into this all night. I don't know about you, Dave, but pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it makes me wonder about precession's effect on like mini ice ages, like during the younger dryas and stuff like that. Can you comment on that?
It's
okay.
I was actually thinking one of the things that Anton had mentioned that I had got quizzed on my exam were these oxygen isotopes, 18 oxygen versus 16 oxygen. They have different atomic weights, and basically whether rain is falling or snow is melting or whether ocean water is evaporating, it favors one of those. So that's how we dig into these ice cores and tell what physical processes were happening in remote times of the past, whether there's more 18 oxygen or 16 oxygen. It tells you whether it was raining or whether it was dry and the water was evaporating, that type of thing.
Very cool, very cool.
So
Yeah, I'm always interested in that kind of stuff. So thank you for sharing. It looks like we got 63 people either have been watching or are watching. If you're new to the channel, say hi. Tell us where you're from. We love that kind of stuff in the chat. We want to get build a multiversal community here. So I don't even know if that's a word, but what do we got next, Mike? Oh yeah, we got a really cool episode coming out tomorrow of Humans of the Multiverse, which is our taped interview series. Are you excited about that one, Mike?
Oh yeah, it'll be dropping at about this time tomorrow. We usually release an interview on Fridays, and this week is our new friend Adam Butler.
Yeah, and Adam, he's the author of this book, Butler's DMT Field Guide. I'm just going to read a short bit off the back here. Butler's DMT Field Guide: A Brief History, Step-by-Step Recipes, and Personal Experiences from a DMT-Saturated Consciousness summarizes the author's life-saving and transformational journey after using DMT hundreds of times for medicinal, meditative, and spiritual purposes. His research into the history, recipes, and usage of DMT helps bridge the gap between what has been uncovered from the structured scientific studies with the knowledge that has been gleaned from the real-world DMT sessions. We had a really fascinating discussion with this guy. He's a really kind and compassionate guy who's really just trying to share what he's learned about DMT and how it's helped him with the world.
And about how he had got out of a dark place. We're trying to share information that can help people overcome obstacles in their lives, overcome the challenges that they're facing. Adam didn't just wake up one day and decide to write this book for funsies. It's a compilation of his experiences overcoming some pretty severe challenges and obstacles. And we mean that to be uplifting. We are sharing it because we want to help everybody.
For sure. And, I wanted to thank Adam for being extremely vulnerable and raw on the episode with us. And I think you guys will appreciate his authenticity as well. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to show you guys a short I made about the episode. Now, just as a disclaimer, this is probably the wildest thing he said on the episode. Most of it's much more tame than this, and a lot of it's based on his mental health recovery. But in this particular short, he's sharing about an experience he had while taking DMT that he wasn't quite expecting. So let me pull that up for you guys.
This is what the shorts are for. This is for YouTube Shorts and for TikTok. We're going on all avenues. We want to spread the word.
Oh yeah, and we're also on TikTok now, not live or anything, but you can find us on TikTok with little shorts and stuff like that. Let's take a look at Adam's short.
So the one where I had interaction with my future self, the interactions with the mantis insectoid beings where they're telling you how to guide yourself. But I mentioned how most of them feel like this DNA download or like a software upgrade. I did have an interaction a couple months ago that was very shocking. It scared the shit out of me. I felt as though it was a hardware upgrade, not a software. Where I was removed from my room. I was in this blue space. It was completely blue. There were no entities, there were no whatever, but I was pinned. I couldn't move, and I don't know if it was like a sleep paralysis thing, if I just took way too big of a hit. But of all the hundreds of times that I've ever done DMT, with all the crazy profound interactions that I've had, this one interaction stands above the most, because it was the first time I was removed from my physical space. Like when I opened my eyes, I was not in my room. I couldn't move, and I had something scanned up through my feet, through my head, and then back out my feet, and it was like a hot laser type deal. And it was a very disturbing interaction. Not painful, but just where do you put that into perspective? And I'm trying to put a positive twist on it, because I feel as though my body was like enhanced or enriched, or like it was, I don't know, like somehow my antenna was being even increased even further. My steel was being hardened even more. Like somehow, some way, I got an upgrade.
Yeah, wild stuff.
That's a
Wild
cool short,
stuff.
Dave.
Thank
And
you,
that
thank
hits
you.
on a lot of the topics. So, I mean, Dave and I are interested in understanding the basis of conscious perception itself. Understanding consciousness is really one of the underlying themes of the show. It's what we're curious about. So, if you're tuned in with us, you're along the ride for it. And we hope you're having as much fun as we are, which is why we got to reach out and find these data points to understand what's happening.
Yeah, and why we got to talk to more people. I've never done DMT before. I'm curious about it. I'm a little bit apprehensive. Mike, have you done it?
This is the type of thing where we're not trying to advise anybody to do
No,
anything
no.
themselves. But if you're curious, if you've heard about things and you want to find out more, we want to be a legit source of info where you can hear it straight from people who have had the experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's why Butler's DMT Field Guide comes into play. It talks all about safety and creating a good atmosphere to make sure you have a good experience. He tells you about how to make sure you have the right person with you, how to curate your space so that it's conducive to having a good experience. And Adam's working really hard to get this information out there, and so. Use our link on Amazon. You'll be able to find it at the bottom of this as well as at the bottom of the episode if you want to purchase the book. And that'll help out both Adam and our show, similar to Ricardo's book. Hey, so we got hey chat. Anybody else in the chat? Have you done DMT before? Are you interested in trying it? What are your thoughts on that? We've got Mr. Steve Wilbur in the comments. He says, love your channel, content, and format. Keep up the great work. It's awesome that you're supporting authors. Hey, Ricardo, you should be in bed. Yeah, it's 3 a.m. for Ricardo. Steve Wilbur is from Tennessee. And thank you so much, Steve, for your kind words. Thank you for sharing our stuff around X. We really appreciate that as well. Yeah, I just want to flash one more time. The links. My mom says, what's DMT? Well, Mom, DMT is one of the most powerful psychedelics known to man, if not the most powerful. It's something that you basically smoke and it lasts 6 to 7 minutes. And you're basically, you're I don't know how else to explain it. I've never done it before.
Indigenous cultures across the world have traditionally, with shamanic practices, brewed drinks containing DMT that provides an entirely different experience from extracting and burning or inhaling it. But it's the same thing that's at the root of a lot of world traditions and a lot of world religions. Those community leaders would be utilizing this as a tool to help guide their societies and help their societies understand their place in the universe. And now with modern science, we can we understand all this.
Yeah, and Sean Tester's back again. He's in New York, I believe Long Island, and he's right. Can you want to pronounce that, Mike?
Dimethyltryptamine.
Yep, it's a psychedelic, and it's quite the potent one. We'll just put it that way.
I've never met a molecule I wouldn't try to pronounce. I'll at least try to pronounce it. Guaranteed.
Yeah, I was just staring at it, going, I'm gonna fumble that. If I wasn't reading it and I just came out of my head, I probably would have been able to say it. So moving on to the next thing, we're excited to announce that we've got an interview scheduled with filmmaker Brian Cory Dobbs, who's going to be a featured guest at Cosmic Summit 2025 in Greensboro, North Carolina.
I remember his article in Pharos magazine, which we read over the holidays, back over Christmas. He had an article in Pharos.
Yeah, shout out to Pharos magazine and the Institute for Natural Philosophy and Ricardo, who's watching the show. Brian Cory Dobbs is producing it's coming out later this year. Actually, we have early access to it, but I'm going to show you guys the trailer he dropped on X from his X channel about his documentary called I'm brain farting on the documentary name.
Blue Planet Red.
Blue Planet Red.
The history of Mars. We're looking at the history of Mars.
Yep. And so let's pull that up. Well, enlarge this for you guys, and let's check this out. It should be about 90 seconds.
What do you know about Mars?
I don't really think too much about it, really.
Do you know anything about it?
No, it's red.
Red?
That it's red.
Red. Red.
Did Mars have water on it?
Enormous amounts of water.
Where there could have been an ocean, for instance, that may have covered the entire northern hemisphere.
There's life on Mars now?
Yes.
In my opinion, the chances of finding life on Mars is 100%.
Why didn't they just send another life test experiment?
Because they don't want to know.
Is it possible that there was a civilization on Mars thousands of years ago?
Not natural formations, pyramid structures.
And so there could have been a lot of history before us that we are not aware of.
Then in principle, there could be relics of that technology on Mars.
Find an elevated level of xenon-129
Yes.
in a planet's atmosphere can only mean one thing.
It's not good news.
Either we're alone or there are others around us, and either is terrifying.
Signs of major catastrophe are everywhere in evidence.
If they disclose this, the cat's out of the bag. We are not alone in our universe.
Wow.
Well. We got disclosure coming from left, right, above, and below, and maybe inside us too. Who knows?
Yeah, that's wild. And Ricardo said the doc is a masterpiece. Yeah, that's one thing I noticed from the trailer. It's absolutely gorgeous cinematography, or whatever you want to call it. It's a beautiful documentary so far. I'm going to
someone who listens to a lot of podcasts where it's just like two people talking on a show, like me and Dave. I always appreciate a good film with high quality camera footage and all that good stuff. I love it.
Same. And he's actually going to be at, like I said, not Contact in the Desert.
Cosmic Summit.
Cosmic Summit. So if you like the documentary and you want to meet him, he's not going to be speaking, but he's going to be doing some film. I think he's going to be making a small film about Cosmic Summit. So you'll be able to meet him there. I'm going to show you guys his website quick. This is where you can get more information. And I think this is the same one we just watched, so we don't need to watch that. But you can support his work by buying some merch. I absolutely love that picture. That's why I put it on our thumbnail for tonight. Yeah, check out. Go ahead.
We did show a scientific article earlier, I guess in the wintertime, or was it even last fall, about how they found evidence of water on Mars underground this past year. It's not speculative or controversial. It's the best way to explain the data that the scientists have gathered. That there's basically deep underground that is still wet a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And I've always been fascinated with stuff like where there was all over X and other places they were showing some structures with like squares and rectangle shape with right angles and stuff like that. There's some controversy on whether or not they're real or doctored or fake or there's a word, if you know it in the chat, it's like a word where if you're looking at something, you're looking for you recognize patterns that you're used to seeing in environments you don't know. Pareidolia, yeah, whether it's pareidolia or not. Some people say that explains most of those weird sightings on Mars.
That's kind of another common theme of the show. Dave and I like to dig into history and mythology and world belief systems, and that pattern recognition is what sets us apart. We're able to recognize patterns. This sort of gives us our ability as a species, but it can also lead to our over-recognizing and looking for patterns that don't really exist. So it's just in a general sense, it's one of the topics.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that captured my imagination ever since I was a kid was the face on Mars. And it was before I even knew that the face on Mars was an actual thing, because I saw it in a movie called Mission to Mars, featuring Gary Sinise, Tim Robbins, Don Cheadle. It's got an absolutely amazing cast, and they uncover the face on Mars in the movie. And ever since then, I've always wondered, maybe there's some pyramids, maybe there's some structures, buried under the quote red sand. So yeah, I just wanted to show that and shout that out. We're really excited about that interview coming up with Mr. Brian Cory Dobbs. And with that being said, we're ready for our guest segment of today, which is featuring Mr. Chris Finefrock, who is, as I said before, the director of Lost America. And he's got a cool presentation for us. So we're going to go ahead and bring him on the show. Everybody welcome Chris to the show in the chat.
Thank you, guys. Very nice. Hello.
Hey, Chris. How's it going, man? Nice to meet you. Nice to finally see you in person.
Nice to see you guys. You're doing great work. So thank you from everybody.
Yeah, thank you. I noticed you're wearing the Institute for Natural Philosophy hoodie there.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to promote Ricardo and some of their great work, but yeah, great group. So
yeah, they really are. They've been really kind to us, and so have you. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on the show. So how's it going over there in California?
Things are okay. Just had some fires and some mudslides and stuff, but things are okay. And I wanted to relay. I did not prepare a presentation, so we're just
okay.
We're gonna have a conversation about whatever you want to talk about.
Okay, cool, perfect. So what I did want to talk about is your show that you produced with Rick Osman, Lost America. What's that been like? Producing that and directing that. Is it producer, director, both?
Yeah, both. Just so much fun. Getting out there, traveling around. From caves, rock shelters, mounds. This stuff seems to be everywhere, and you stay in these just little hotels, and it's just a lot of fun. And listening to you just before this, it's a great cure for depression, anxiety. Is go out and see these sites everywhere.
Thank you.
Yeah. Was there one that particularly struck you, or really that you guys featured in the documentary?
No, it's the whole story. And a lot of places that I haven't been yet, but it's all over the country. And so all these different researchers focus on different things. And listening to you guys just before, you guys are so smart about what you're talking about, and these guests you must just be blown away how smart these people are. But I kind of focused on some North America, and the stuff's everywhere. It's all over.
Yeah, it really is.
How did you plot the course that you took? Was it based on availability, where you wanted to film, or did you have a list of sites beforehand? How did all that go down?
Well, the Midwest seems to be an underappreciated area, or at least not talked about as much as, my experience, especially Kentucky. Who would know, how many sites or rock shelters? We're talking hundreds, if not more, rock shelters, caves with petroglyphs just in Kentucky. That's a very underappreciated state. So Midwest and that type of thing.
That's why I'm glad you guys are doing that work and put that documentary out there. Another guy who's doing similar work, Dr. Greg Little, we had on the show, as you know. Most people in the U.S. don't know that we've got ancient human history right in our backyards.
Yeah. It's just...
Yeah.
One of the things that I often kind of think about, and since we're going to freewheel a little bit on the conversation, teaching history to little kids. What's the point? Some of them get real bored with it and would rather be maybe playing with crafts or learning an instrument or something that's hands-on and learning how to build something when they're little kids. And besides, by the time you're an adult, you forget it. And besides, they also have to teach you a cartoon version of history at that age, because a lot of it's inappropriate at that age. When you're in the 3rd grade, you're in the 7th grade. When it gets to deep history, maybe let's just wait till we're teenagers or adults, and then let's also be frank and say there are a lot of unknowns about the remote past, and we're gathering new evidence. But obviously, schools don't really operate that way. That being said, I still had a good experience in school overall, but like, what's up with teaching history to third graders in the first place?
No, love it. Well, kids are open at that age, right? I mean,
True.
so
that's a plus.
But I like what you're saying. So
it definitely got me, but I do like I got into, I don't know, it was like things on like A&E, In Search Of, and things like that got me into like kind of sort of alternative history when I was very young. But history class always got me. But there was kids in my class who were basically like, I don't care about this.
Right.
Like, let me play video games, that kind of thing. And I don't know. What do you guys think is the reason why? Because growing up, I remember in the 6th grade, learning. I went to school in Nova Scotia, learning about the Micmac natives and that kind of thing. But at that time, it was like basically history was known. It was like the history was known. No need to ask any questions. We've got it all figured out, and now in 2025, that's obviously not true, but there's still like kind of this pushback and pullback between academia and like these new ideas. Why do you guys suppose that is?
Yeah, what do you think, Chris?
Oh, it's your turn. Well, I'll get there. But Nova Scotia, red paint people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You probably know more than I do, but that's one thing.
No, so that's just it. I didn't learn about that at all. I had to learn about red paint people through, I think, it was somebody on X. If he's watching, I'm trying to think of his name right now. The nub guy, the language of nubs or something like that. He's the one who told me about it, and they did some work with. What's his name? Wandering Wolf, the guy Wandering Wolf, and they went out there and checked out some of that stuff. That was new to me. That's what I mean. Like growing up, I didn't learn about that at all. Do you know anything about the red paint people? I haven't got to dig into it too much.
Well, I will, or I have people that are, but the red paint people, I was going to say the Basque people as well, fishing for cod, but that's a little south of where you were. But the Vikings theoretically coming that way. Also Catholics from Greenland under Prince Henry Sinclair. Queen Margaret basically ordered ships to come over that route and definitely bring treasure and bury it all over the place.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting route. But no, forgive me for not being more of. I have the stuff, but just not ready to talk about that right now.
That's okay, man. No worries. Enigma Seeker. He's. We just did an interview with him the other day. He made a comment. They don't teach about mounds until you get to college. Enigma Seeker.
That's a good point. I didn't end up pursuing a history education after high school, so I obviously could have and would have found out more. That's a very good point to make.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder though, because I don't know how old Enigma Seeker is. We did a wonderful interview with him a couple days ago. Look forward to that coming out in a few weeks. On Eden, his theory that Eden is actually in Egypt. Eden was Egypt. Yep. But I wonder how old he is, because I wonder because I'm 43. At my age, when I was coming up in the 90s, were they teaching about the mounds in college then? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Steve Wilbur says there are over 500 indigenous, federally recognized Indian tribes in the USA. More only state recognized, and even more not recognized at all. Wow. Where do you get that those numbers from, Steve? Yeah, and that's what we learned about working with and doing our episode with what's his name? Dr. Greg Little. He really wrote the manual on this stuff, the encyclopedia. His second edition is unavailable and currently going for sale on eBay, used for over $2,000.
Well, I can make a comment here. I don't know if it's still available. It was yesterday, but there is a book on eBay for $129 or best offer, the first edition.
Okay.
So somebody's going to buy it out there. I just have a feeling.
Right. And the new one's supposed to come out this year. Is that right?
That's why I didn't buy this one, just because I already have a first and a second edition.
That's right. That's right.
And the third will be very special. I mean, that's a master life's work.
Oh, yeah.
Little. I mean, talk about contributing to mankind. And then before that, or during the Edgar Cayce stuff, like just unbelievable contribution.
Agreed. I'm glad you said a master's life work, because this guy has literally put in, they say 10,000 hours to be a master. I think it's way more for Dr. Little on this stuff. He's written over 60 books, for God's sake.
Yeah, a genius, certainly. Yeah. So what else do you guys want to talk about?
We're not much of filmmakers, but we are planning a small road trip next week. We're going to do a little circuit. We live here in Georgia. Dave and I live a couple hours apart, and Tyrone, Rebirth of the Word, lives a few hours from us. So we're going to link up, and then we're going to hit up Serpent Mount, and then we're going to do Monk's Mound, Cahokia Mound, and then on the way back south, we're going to hit up Pinson Mound. That's basically the little triangle or little rectangle we're going to make, something like that. And so we're going to see how it goes. We're really excited for that.
Wow, how fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up a picture of Serpent Mound for people who haven't seen it. Have you ever been there, Chris?
I have not been there. I'm embarrassed to say that, but I've been to sites around it. So
okay, so here's Serpent Mound, and you know, there's a lot of speculation online about Serpent Mound and in books and stuff like that. But the reality is it's an extremely complex site that you really can only see the full brilliance and magnificence of from the air. And so like it begs to wonder, like you see that a lot in the ancient world, effects or visual effects, visual aesthetics of these massive complexes and sites that you can only be appreciated from above. Why is that, you know?
Yep.
That's Serpent Mound. I wanted to pull up Monk's Mound as well, since we're talking about it. You mentioned the Midwest, and in the encyclopedia that we're talking about, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
I have one of those encyclopedias on hand, Chris, that you could run and grab in a minute or two. I'd love to see one on screen, because I just have the small book.
It works pretty well, I'd say.
Let me see here. So we're actually hitting up Monk's Mound as well, which is I believe part of the Cahokia Mound site. And let me pull it up here. Share this instead. As a filmmaker, Chris, like we are so okay. Let me give you an example.
We're gonna be walking around with our phones. Is what we're gonna be doing.
And our thumbs up our butts, basically, because the first two times we tried this, we went to where do we go? We went to Etowah Mounds here in.
We did get our feet wet
Georgia
with a couple of Georgia mounds, Kolomoki Mound in South Georgia, and then Etowah Mound further north.
Very nice. I haven't been to those two, so I'm very happy about that.
Yep. Any tips for us as we're walking around these sites? Things we should be looking for? You know, things like I don't know, just that beginner filmmakers might need to know.
Well, the two near you, or at least a relatively short drive, is Watson Break, 3500 BC, a circle with stones, kind of, you know, and I actually just looked at the LiDAR today. It's very cool. Another one is obviously Poverty Point. So,
yeah.
I'm
going to pull up a Watson Break link here just because shout out to Mound Lore on X. He's always putting out stuff like this. He said, I don't know. I don't know if all these numbers are correct or anything, but I just wanted to read a little bit of what he pulled up. 5,400 years ago, before the Egyptian pyramids, Native Americans in Louisiana built a massive earthwork complex. Few people know about Watson Break, the oldest mound complex in North America. Discovered in the 1980s, Watson Break was built around, as you said, 3500 BCE, making it older than Stonehenge. It's a 30-acre complex with 11 mounds up to 20 feet tall, connected by ridges. But what's crazy is it was built by hunter-gatherers, not farmers. I don't know if I buy that. It seems a little complex for hunter-gatherers. What do you guys think? I don't know much about this site, though, so.
Yeah, that's all right. That's good info right there. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I don't know much about that site. And then what was the other one you mentioned? Oh yeah,
Poverty Point in Louisiana.
Yeah, that's
this
also
like a really big amphitheater with solar alignments. I don't have any. I'll pull it up real quick.
Tell us about the solar alignments there.
We're gonna have to pull it up live here. We're kind of winging it, but
that's right. Oh, I thought somebody could talk about them. Forgive me.
No worries, no worries. We gotcha. I've heard of Poverty Point because Graham Hancock talks about it all the time. He mentions it in his most recent Netflix series, which is pretty cool. What's the name of the series again? I forget off the top of my head. Ancient Apocalypse. Yeah, so he does mention Poverty Point there.
On Netflix that I watched before I went ahead and let my Netflix slide. I really wasn't watching it too much last year.
Yeah, me too.
Enigma Seeker says he's been to Poverty Point. What were your impressions of it, Peter?
It's in the northeast corner of Louisiana, close to really Arkansas and Mississippi.
Yeah. Well,
I really want to get my hand on one of Greg Little's encyclopedias because this is just an idea that I've had recently. I haven't said this before. I'm taking a class on how to make maps, and I'm going in a computer and how to make maps. And this Poverty Point map here, wouldn't be that hard to make if you had the right source material. I'm thinking about all this stuff. I've gone looking on the online geo databases already, all the ones that are available to me for exhaustive, geo-reference lists of these Native American sites. It ain't out there. So what I need is the book in hand and then access to the computer system, and then I can get it in there. We can get it in there, that's some good work that needs doing. And then you can pull it into these electronic programs and make fancy maps with all this stuff and document it, save data about it, categorize it, make databases with all the information that's in this encyclopedia. You can make that into a map. And I never really knew about how all that was possible before I started taking this class a little while ago. So.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed at these sites and at these museums is that maybe it's just me and I'm terrible with maps. Which if I go back to my days in the Army, I could probably if he's a fan of the show, my battle buddy from basic training, Tyler Lent. Which I actually had not talked to him in over 20 years, and then I found him. I think it was on LinkedIn or something recently, and then he became a fan of the show. Anyway, he could probably tell you that he's probably during our land navigation courses. I would have to lean on him heavily because sometimes looking at maps is like reading Chinese for me.
How about you, Chris? What do you think about maps? What's your favorite map?
Well, maps. There's 20 maps alone that show 20 maps alone that show the West Coast being Fusang, being a Chinese, just known to the Chinese, called Fusang, all up and down the West Coast. I mean, those maps are out there and available, and that's one thing.
Yep. I didn't know that. So you're saying there's maps, Chinese maps that show the West Coast of the United States on it as part of their territory.
There's Chinese, but there's Italian, there's other ones. So there's all different types, I believe.
Okay. So one of the maps in Greg Little's encyclopedia literally shows tens of thousands of red dots that are all Native American burial mounds and caves and different sites in different places with petroglyphs. It's wild. I didn't know that there was literally tens of thousands of sites in the United States.
There's a lot more than that. Certainly that have been eradicated, but we're talking about you could I've literally never said this, but you could use the number I think You could use the number that there was a million sites. I mean, you could. So
a million sites.
I think
Wow.
so. I think there's, of course, there is. Certainly with South America, Central America, there's 100,000 Mayan or 100,000 pyramids in just Guatemala. But I was actually just talking North America with that statement that along the river system, the Mississippi going north, along the bluffs there, a lot of sites, every bluff up there into Iowa and Mississippi. Ohio, obviously, the amount of mounts. Minnesota, I think it's 100,000. It's huge numbers. In some states, it might be 20,000, 50,000, like more. Like,
this is great. I never heard that before. So as you said that, I did a quick Google search. How many cities are inside the United States? Because I had no idea. I was like, it says 19,500, which is a much smaller number, of course, than a million. But then it makes me realize and wonder, okay, a million. What if parts of these million were actually big cities? What if dozens or even hundreds of the smaller ones made up? They would have called it one like big, and there's you just live in this neighborhood, like neighborhoods, townships around a city or something. Who knows?
So it was all connected. The north, the south, the middle, the tips, all connected, all trade, east, west, north, south. So, there's no problem to say that the Aztecs were in Arizona. There's no problem to say, the Mayans were up into Canada. It's just not a big deal to say that. So,
and we were in the Bahamas too, because the ocean was lower during some of those times when there was more ice at the caps. Florida would have been connected to all that stuff down there.
Yeah, and that's actually that's where the Bimini Road comes in. How do you guys feel about the Bimini Road? There's a lot of pushback on whether or not it's man-made or not.
Mike? No.
Not really. I want to go see it for myself. At this point, I've heard people argue for and against, and I don't have a strong stake on either side, to be honest.
I have Greg Little's DVD about it. I believe Edgar Casey, talked about Bimini Road, right? Or Atlantis, being part of Atlantis, possibly.
Yep.
The site that I think is more interesting than that is I believe it's Cuba, right? Or is that the one? It's that very possibly under the water there. I think it's Cuba. Is it? Or is it?
There is one in Cuba.
That is not a fake image. That's a real image, and that was underneath. That's underneath the water right now. So, that's a possibility. Also, Azores, Portugal. There's different options.
Yeah. Are you getting a picture of that, Mike? I want to show that one under Cuba. Are you looking at that or me?
I've got it. Yep, I'll pull it up. And this is just a fresh image search. So I don't know any of these sources, but Cuban underwater city. Well, it looks like 3 pyramids connected to some other items, complexes. Next image.
Very cool.
I'll tell you one more site down there. The guy, I heard his presentation, and he's not calling me back anymore. Hope he's okay. But is Crescentus, Crescentus or whatever, Crescentus, down your area, underwater. I mean, that's a site. So.
All right, my first search for Crescentus pulled up Pillsbury, so I got to revise my search. Hang on.
All right, so that's it with that area.
Yeah, I just recently found out about that site near Cuba and I couldn't help but wonder, like, is this a fake picture? But then I asked Grok, and apparently it's not.
Oh, really? Boy, that's cool.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't know how trustworthy Grok is on these things, but according to Grok, it's not fake.
Wow, that's good info. Cool.
Yeah. And since we're on the topic of underwater monuments, I wanted to show a quick video of one of my faves, which I was first introduced to by Graham Hancock's Quest for the Lost Civilization documentary, which I've probably seen 5 million times. In fact, like that's what I put on if I've had a stressful day or I need to take a nap.
He says that's a doctored image. I'll go back and search it. I tried to pick the 3 images off that search that weren't obviously like thumbnails, like generated thumbnails. I don't know.
Peter, if you could send us a link or something about how that's a doctored image and why you are saying it's a doctored image. And also, there was something else you said that I wanted you to provide a link for. I don't know if I see it. Oh yeah, you said the Bimini Road is not a road. Be interesting to hear why you say that. I really don't have an opinion one way or the other, but yeah. The point is though is that there's not only is there like all these undiscovered sites that are either been destroyed or eradicated, on land. There's a bunch of stuff underwater that Graham Hancock spent 20 years exploring for us. And I just want to show, just because, okay, I'm no expert on anything, okay? But when I look at this site, the Yonaguni Monument, I see too many things about it that suggest that it, at least a part of it, has to be man-made. It has to be. And what's interesting is on the Quest for the Lost Civilization with Graham Hancock, he took both John Anthony West, rest in peace, as well as Dr. Robert Schoch, who, if you don't know, is famous for pushing back the redating of the Sphinx. And he says, and he seems very apprehensive in the documentary, and has come out since afterwards to say that it's man-made. What he says is that every single feature on the site, it can be explained through natural processes. It's just it's a matter of it all happening in one place at the one time through chaos theory, through randomness. And Mike was there. I asked Robert Schoch in person about this, and that's what he told us. And I just want to show the audience Yonaguni quick. This is just a short video about it. So let me pull that up here. I'm going to turn the sound down so we can kind of make some commentary. Let's go ahead and share. Hit the sound. Enigma, you got a lot of opinions. What do you think about Yonaguni? And when I'm watching this, I'm seeing right angles. I'm seeing steps. This is just a 4-minute video. I'm seeing platforms. I'm seeing terraces. I mean, what do you think, Chris?
I don't have much to say other than just there was a lot of activity going on over there. Somebody definitely had boats 60,000 years ago in Australia, and these megaliths that are found, Nan Madol and etc. I think we're dealing with 400 feet of water levels lower. Unless it's 300 feet, it's 400, I think, 300 to 400. So all these sites are along the, they're along the land there.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to a certain feature that I was trying to pause it on a certain feature, but I'm having issues.
But it's very specific comments that people make. These phrases that people use, certainly academics in some regards, very specific phrases to put things down. So just their words in a few 10 seconds, can just squash, whatever somebody's life's work is. They just use similar phrases like the one you just described. There's a lot of them. From the mammoth carried the spear point. I mean, it's the rat carried it into the mammoth. They all use the same phrases to deny, why that would be natural.
Yeah, and there's one of them in our chat. He's a new friend of the show. He says it's just natural Peter's got a lot of opinions like this. Let's back that up, Peter, with some with a link, with a source. If it's just natural, how did all these like strange features end up in the same place all at the same time?
A miracle of God, a 1 in a gazillion, right?
Right. Apparently. Especially, now that we know that like this site was underwater, there are other sites near Yonaguni that match the geology. Let's see it, Peter. If you could send us a link, send us some kind of I don't know, source. I want to see it. I honestly do. And there's a quote from Robert Schoch. I can't actually read it right now. Let me go back and see, because Robert Schoch's the one who kind of kills this one. Like he kind of shoots this one down, and it is rather disappointing for me.
Yeah.
Let me go back to his statement here. Trying to find it. The rocks of this group are also crisscrossed by numerous sets of parallel, vertically oriented joints in the rock. These joints are natural. And that's what he says at Boston College or Boston University. So history, myths, and legends. So Sean Tester says doesn't look natural. And, I have an untrained eye at this stuff, and it doesn't look natural to me either. I'm with Ricardo from History, Myths, and Legends. The rock is obviously natural, but here's the one that I wanted to pause it on. Let me go back quick. The rock is obviously natural, but they definitely. I mean, look at that, Peter. Come on, Peter. How could that be natural? The one before that too.
We're really not trying to have a debate here on the show tonight, folks. So. We're not trying to have any kind of debates. I don't know.
I'm not having a debate. I want to know I don't want to know he says stuff. I want to know why he's saying it. You know what I'm saying? Here we go. He pulled something up. There we go. Thank you, Peter. I can't even pull it up for some reason. I guess I can't hit it from there. Brittany, I don't know if you could pull that up for us. If not, we'll put it in the chat below, in the description below, and then we'll maybe come back on a future episode, bring Peter on and describe it for us. But I'm with our boy Ricardo. The work clearly presents not man-made. The rock itself is, right? I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the Yonaguni Monument for now. But yeah, I think there's a lot of, contention between academia and what Peter calls alternative historians, and rightfully so. You're presenting alternative ideas, right? I wonder where is it ego? I don't know. Where does the animosity come from? Because it's my opinion that if we were able to marry both academia and alternative history ideas, we'd be able to break out of the current bubble we're in of information.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think, Mike?
Let's not forget who's got all the microscopes and the telescopes. It's literally the universities and institutions and laboratories that already exist. What are you going to do? Go destroy all their microscopes and then pull your own out of thin air? Go destroy all their telescopes? Go destroy all the libraries and records that exist just because it's a bad institution, naughty institution? No, we got to fix the institutions. Institutions aren't perfect. They never are. You don't need an institution to think scientifically, but there's a whole lot of good science that goes on in institutions too. So there's my counterpoint. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, Brittany's saying that link isn't working, but thank you, Peter, for providing it.
Universities worth of microscopes and telescopes that they're ready to bust out that I don't know about.
Well, also there's value in teaching the scientific method, teaching how to use these instruments, how to build these instruments, and it's something that the alternative history people, aren't able to do as easily. But what ends up happening is, institutions get like stuck in a groupthink, stuck in a dogmatic point of view. And then if somebody comes in and says, like, from a different discipline, hey, have you considered this? It's always immediately, not always, I shouldn't say that, but a lot of times it's, nope, no way, no way it could be. We've got all the information, but we know, like, for example, like there was no civilization in the Amazon 30 years ago. Now we know there's a massive civilization with networks of roads and all kinds of stuff just under the jungle, under the canopy. So being so hard-lined on your opinion, I think is dangerous.
Well,
yeah, I don't know why we're even going there.
Enigma Seeker says it has to be a clear architectural structure with design to know if it's man-made, not something that is blurry and left to pareidolia. And we did mention that earlier about pareidolia, did we not?
We certainly did. So this has been a pretty fun hour. It's been great to meet you, Chris.
Cool.
What do you got on the lineup? Are you working on any other films, any other documentaries, any mysterious productions?
Trying to. Bunch of places. It's a lot out there. But thank you guys. That was very great. Did some great work there. So
yeah, thank you.
Anything you can hint at? We don't want you to reveal too much, but can you drop us a hint of what might be in the pipeline?
Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arkansas, Oklahoma.
That's the perfect type of clues that we need. We're going to start thinking about what might be going on in these places.
All right. Well, I'm excited to share work, and you guys are going to these places I've never been to, so super cool.
Yeah, we'll be putting that out there, and it'll probably be a while actually, because but once we get back from our trip, we got to organize everything and then throw it out there. But stay tuned for that, Chris, and everyone else in the chat, because we got a cool trip coming up. Get some good content. All right.
Thanks, guys.
That was a fun show, everybody. We'll see y'all next time.
We can wind down a little. You play the wind down music. Yeah, Cosmic Summit coming up. We're going to be there. We're also going to be at Contact in the Desert. And you can please check out, find us on Linktree. It has all of our links. We're everywhere now. So like, subscribe. We really appreciate the subscriptions on Amazon. On YouTube. Please go watch Chris and Rick Osmond's series, Lost America, on Amazon Prime. It's available now. Is there still an offer for a refund if they don't like it?
Sure, for you guys, definitely. 100%.
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right, guys, thanks for joining the Multiverse. We're taking next week off for our trip, so we'll see you in 2 weeks. Adios.
Bye, guys.
See y'all later.
See ya.